Hello, my name is Sean. Full name Sean Avery Medlin, which is also what I write and release music under. I'm a poet, a rapper, and an educator based in Phoenix, and I consider myself to be from Phoenix because I've spent the majority of my formative years in the Phoenix area. I grew up further west in the Avondale, Litchfield Park part of the valley. What I do is create music and language to express my experience in my body, really, is what I do. Um, I talk a lot about media representation or misrepresentation as it pertains to the ways that me and other people are trained to perceive each other and trained to perform in our bodies. I talk a lot about hip hop culture as something that I really love and feel very much like a protector and critic and participant of. Um, I talk a lot about gender and sexuality as it pertains to my experiences, trying to find um, authentic ways to exist in myself that don't include the ways that I'm expected to perform. And yeah, that's what my work is about. By day, I'm a high school English teacher, and it's a gift, truly. I'm able to teach English and also poetry part of the year. So that's very life-giving to work directly with young people and watch them create and watch them grow an appreciation for poetry. Um, yeah, my pronouns are he, they. Um, yeah, that's me. Yeah, so I identify um as a bisexual non-binary man or bisexual demi boy. I have struggled a little bit with the term bisexual, but it does feel more accurate to me in my attraction and my expression than pansexual. Just, to be honest. Um, and I do think that we should be expanding terms more than taking them away. Um, Regardless, I've also struggled with identifying as non-binary, but I do feel like non-binary man is a way of settling, not in a negative way, but as a way to kind of acknowledge like my gender expression and presentation and internalization, but it also like honors how I'm perceived and how I feel. Um, and demi boy, I use non-binary man and demi boy interchangeably. I don't think everyone who identifies those ways does that, but I do. I think that demi boy captures how I feel very well. Demi being Greek prefix for half, so it's literally like half masculine, half boy, not entirely masculine. Okay. Writers that are my biggest inspirations. I have a lot. I also consider a lot of musicians, specifically rappers, to be writers. So, my first and biggest influence ever in poetry probably was a poet named Saul Williams. Still very much to this day, I think a lot about his cadence, um, and just the way he plays with words. Danez Smith, who I'm fortunate to know and also kind of be an unofficial mentee of. Um, Morgan Parker, um, Andre 3000, Yassine Bey. There's a poet and musician from Chicago named Jamila Woods. She's really incredible. I've been a big Kendrick Lamar fan most of my life. I really admire the attention he pays to his lyrics. He doesn't waste a lot of space, I feel like. And Gil Scott-Heron. I, obviously I was not born in like kind of his heyday or peak, but going back and like listening to his work beyond things like the revolution will not be televised, and Whitey's on the Moon, which are like incredible pieces, right? But listening to like his album Pieces of a Man and just really hearing his musicianship on top of his like how sharp his pen in is a really big, always been a big inspiration for me. Yeah, for sure. I do feel like I could be a better like student of the past, I think, when it comes to specifically Black queer trans artists and creators, you know. But like, I already mentioned Dinez. One of my good friends is a really incredible rapper named Crash Prez, who identifies as a gay Black man. Um, there's a rapper I don't know personally, but they're really amazing. Quinn, I think they're based in Atlanta. They're a trans rapper. Um, Another good friend of mine is a poet based in Arizona, Jada Renee Allen. Look her up if you don't know who that is. She's really incredible. She's a conjure woman and a poet, a Black trans woman. Um, the poet Jasmine Mans. Um, I'm trying to remember the name of her last book. It's like on my shelf right over there. Um, but yes, she's been a big influence on me, like trying to her and Inez really like trying to understand how I get something to kind of get a response on the page that I can get a response on the stage from, if that makes sense. Like I know when I read it, I can get a certain response. So like how do I write it or put it on the page in a way that like it can maybe create a similar reaction or feeling in the reader, or the audience, I guess. And then yeah, another friend of mine named Saw Whitley. Shout out Saw. Saw's a non-binary Black person. Saw's actually a geographer, and a poet. So yeah, definitely a lot of um queer, trans, Black, Indigenous creators. And then Tate Walker is another is an Indigenous queer poet here in Phoenix doing really incredible work. Yeah, I just want to shout out one more person real quick. I feel really grateful at this time to be able to like even name or list this many people, Black, queer, trans, Indigenous people, because for a long time I was not around a lot of people like that. Even though some of these people I've known for years, right? But I did not always have this, I feel like it's becoming a wealth of contacts, of, friends and acquaintances and peers and mentors, that I can reach out to for support or guidance or, friendship. Um, And so, yeah, right now, I mean, I feel really grateful. I do feel like, it's kind of hard when you're a part of something, it's more difficult to name it, I think.
Mhm.
And, retrospect, there will be names for like this generation of artists existing at the margins who are like creating in the um, complete disarray and dysfunction of like the jaws of fascism closing. So like, you know, right now though, it just feels like assuring, like, oh, I'm not alone and I have people. Um, and I'm really hoping too, when I write my next book, that my book will be that much better because I'll be around, still sharp and still. I've been around like really incredible writers who um, understand me and my work in a way that's not just about like the poetics. So I'm really excited to answer this because I wrote like a very like educated response. But I feel like music and poetry are just intrinsically tied.
Mhm.
Um, I think they always have been and always will be. And when you think about the language that we use to describe poetry specifically and music, there's so much crossover, like the word lyric coming from the word lyre, as in the instrument. Um, and lyric being a lyric poem or a lyric in a song, or like the lyric of the poem could be talking about the like way it's expressing the speaker's emotions or internalization or something experience, or like the word stave, which is another word for stanza. No one really uses stave for stanza anymore. I don't know the last time someone did, but stave is like also a musical term. One of my favorite forms of poetry is the contrapuntal. I think I have two in my book, 808s and Other Worlds, but it's where you have one poem going down the left, another poem going down the right, and then across it's like a third poem. And contrapuntal is also a term for, I think, melodies that are countering each other. So like they're not like creating harmony, um, but they're working together. Or I might have it wrong in terms of what it means in music, but I know it's also a music term. Um, but also like okay, like on like a physical level, I think like spoken language is like inherently musical because of its percussiveness. And that makes me think of the drum, you know, which is like an essential instrument in a lot of African cultures and indigenous cultures. Um, and so yeah, I think like the connection is like primordial, it's just like existed before there was the words music and language. But when it comes to specifically like rap music, because a lot of times I talk about rap and poetry and the similarities and differences or whatever, but um yeah, I think rap is poetry, like rap is poetry for sure. Poetry is not always rap, but all rap is poetry. Um, which I think is an interesting lens to apply to like certain eras of mainstream rap music, right? To think about like what are we really using poetics for here? Um, I mean, you could ask that of like a lot of poets too, it doesn't have to just be hip hop, but yeah, there definitely was. It was a tough process in that way. Having to accept because at first, when I first was writing the book, obviously I didn't have, well, maybe not obviously, I didn't have a book deal for the book on the onset. Um, I started writing the book like 4 years before it was published. So at that point in time, I had a lot of different ideas of how I would self-publish it. And I think I always wanted there to be some sort of audio or video component so that folks could get that experience of me reading the work and performing the work. Um, but yeah, I labored over a lot of like decisions, like line breaks for sure, thinking about when to break a line and also thinking about when to just put a block of text, like maybe um it's for some pieces in the collection it felt better um to present the poems in a prose way, rather than let the reader interpret the pauses and the line breaks as they would, because it might actually land closer to how I want if they just read it in a block. Um, yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. A lot of formatting, form, line break, punctuation, capitalization, um, all those little details just to try and mimic or imitate what it would sound like or feel like coming like literally out of my mouth. I do, yeah. I think that like I think it's a great book to read. I think the language is, I'm talking about my own book, like this is so funny. But I think the language is interesting enough on the page, right? But um there's for sure just like a cadence or a rhythm or a tonality that I have that I think helps the poems land. There's also some things in the book that are meant to be funny or some things that are meant to be very much not funny, you know, and I think um those things are not as up for interpretation when read by the poet. For sure. I definitely, and I could talk about this for another 15 minutes probably, but um, I feel like I can pinpoint a lot of my early loves in my life. Like definitely rap music was one of them. Um, and then like an immediate, maybe even before that, was just like a love of like reading and specifically um reading fantasy. When I used to read the Red Wall books when I was like in middle school. I don't know if you've heard, or they were like really popular. I can't remember the author right now, but they were basically anthropomorphizing these like mice and badgers and wolves and all these different animals, and they lived in like, a medieval kingdom, and there was like a sort of King Arthur figure, and just all the kind of classic knights and royalty medieval stories just told with these like little animals. Um so like yeah, I think about things like that that I just really loved early on. It was a way to escape, but I think more importantly, like it's a reflection of our own world, but we as in like both the creator and the audience, we get to sort of add this other layer of projection of like things that we hope or dream or things that we are afraid of or just general questions we have, right? Like about the world and that we can represent by creating another world for people to come into and experience a story in. Um, so yeah, like I was, I know it's like super taboo now. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I was like a super massive Harry Potter fan. Um, I was also a super big Star Wars fan that only fell away a couple recently in recent years just because like Disney has bloated the franchise. It's crazy how much Star Wars content there is. Um, Other things I've been a major fan of in my life, Kingdom Hearts. For Kingdom Hearts fans out there, I was definitely like 13 on the Kingdom Hearts forums, and like posting actively. Yeah, like just ways for me to create metaphors, like my experience was like really complicated and isolating in like the suburbs of Arizona, in the body that I'm in. So it was a lot more fun for me to like escape into something else where like I could still read stories about the outcast, like I remember how deeply I used to and this is in the book 808s and Other Worlds, because I also am and was still a huge Naruto fan. You can maybe see like the black Naruto characters on my wall right behind me. um yeah, so yeah, I was like a massive like Sasuke Uchiha fan. Um, and like maybe that was like my bisexuality awakening, but also like like to keep it about like, theme and narrative, Sasuke was furious because of what the world had done to his people. And that's something I related to so deeply as a teenager and as a young adult and now, like this, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's a burning animosity, because of the continuous suffering of Black people worldwide. in the past and now. And you know, the more we move to the margins, right? We start talking about Black women, Black queer people, Black trans people, Black disabled people, right? Like the atrocities, the crimes, and the erasure just gets worse. Um, and so, yeah, like moments like those in these larger worlds or stories, like when I can find a character or a moment that I can truly, truly see myself in, for whatever reason, when it is uh, something that's unreal, something that's been, you know, so that's imagined, um, it can create like, I don't know, the bond. I don't want to say the bond feels stronger, but the bond is different. Like the way that I relate um feels more magnetizing or something. Like it draws me deeper into the world of the anime or book or movie, TV show, video game. Um, so yeah, yeah, yeah.